Hey guys, it's me, Tiffany Cosplay here, and I'm finally back with another video this week. I do apologise that I missed one last week. I've not been real well. I've had a few issues with my teeth. I have a massive dentist phobia. I've had an infection. I had to go to the dentist. It made me sick, anxious, panicky. So I'm not 100% right now, but I really wanted to get a video out for you guys. I didn't do one last week because I was still finishing editing the footage, and I'd rather have videos, not necessarily every single week for you guys, but videos where the content is, you know, more decent than if I could just do a video every week for the sake of doing a video. So for today's video, obviously, as you guys will probably figure out from the title, it's the time-lapse tutorial of how I made my dark aqua costume. This could totally apply to the normal version of Aqua as well. Obviously, just for her shredded sleeves and skirt, you wouldn't cut those in that kind of way. But also an announcement just in regards to some video that I'll hopefully do soon. I'm going to be ordering some makeup for a pre-sale makeup of a particular DC Bombshells character. I've never done a grayscale makeup. I'm relying on the fact it's like normal makeup, but it's in grey tones instead of colours. So yeah, you guys will learn that one with me too. So hopefully that one goes kind of to plan. And then the other one, some of you may or may not know, but I am a huge fan of The Crow with Brandon Lee. It is one of my all-time favourite movies, if not my favourite movie. And I was really curious. Those who follow me on Instagram have probably seen that I have done a very quick Crow-inspired makeup. At that point in time, I'd seen about 20 minutes of the film, and I had looked at one reference picture for a few seconds and just did the makeup with what I had on hand. But I was curious as to what was used in the actual film itself. So I contacted the makeup artist, Lance Anderson, and he actually replied. So if you can see this, Lance, thank you so much. So I have learnt what the screen used products were, which is great because I had an idea for a video. It will be a Crow makeup tutorial of a fashion, just a little bit different. So I will be ordering the products that Lance used on Brandon Lee. So yeah, hopefully you guys like it. I'm really excited to actually do this makeup again, do it properly, and do it a couple of different ways. So hopefully that will be a video coming up soon. Today's video, obviously, as I said before, is the tutorial for Aqua. I will also hopefully do a American McGee's Alice makeup tutorial video, and then show you guys a couple of the costumes that are the budget-friendly options at the end of that. But anyway, on to today's video. Yes, it's the Aqua costume making time lapse. I tried to cut out some bits so you guys weren't watching like me doing one thing for a few minutes, even sped up, because I figured that's probably a bit boring. As always, if you have any questions, just shoot me a comment below. I'll absolutely answer them as best I can. And yeah, here's the video. Enjoy it, guys. Here I am just cutting out drawing, not cutting out. I'm just drawing a mock-up pattern for, I think this is the sleeves right here. I did just eyeball this. You could absolutely measure it so you know it's the right size for you. I did keep putting it alongside my arm, and then I just cut it shorter, and as you can see I cut it a bit thinner there. I didn't bother cutting the bottom all jagged because I figured I'd do that when I had done the fabric pieces. So for the side skirt panels, I did do a rough measurement, and I did make it a little bit longer than I would need if it was flat, so I could bunch it up a little bit because hers always looks a little bit bunched up. So I'm just sticking the pieces together, and then I think I realized that I could just fold that in half. So I didn't bother sticking the other one on, just fold it in half and cut it on the fold of the fabric. So here is the fabric. It kind of looks nearly black, which it is nearly black on the video. It's actually a really, really dark navy blue, and it's a satin fabric. I was initially just going to have that satin fabric as the outer layer. So you can see I've got it right way up because I decided to do a lining of like a metallic-y, sparkly kind of blue. It's really hard to explain. If I can find it online, I will link it below. I did get it from Spotlight. So here I'm just pinning the two pieces for one skirt panel together. Right sides both facing in, the wrong sides, as in the sides that will be on the inside when I fold it out, are on the outside. So I'm just cutting it around. I did trace around my pattern slightly, I think, so I could sew it and ultimately fold it inside out. So here with the skirt panels, I sewed the two side edges first, and then I think I sewed across the top. Yeah, here I'm sewing the side edges anyway. Now I would recommend, if you're using this satin fabric like I was, to not use a leather needle, which is what I have in my sewing machine. It is way too thick and strong for such a dainty fabric like satin, and it was actually really difficult to sew. So here I'm just pinning the top of the two pieces just so I can keep it together. Yeah, as I said, this is super flimsy fabric, so it's really hard to have everything sitting exactly right. And I did sew down the edges, that's why I'm pinning it, just to keep it all in place and together how it should be. And here I'm just using like a white chalky type texture just to draw out the rough idea of where the sort of shredded edge of her skirt panel will be, because the idea is I'm actually going to sew that to stop it from fraying. And just keep the two pieces together so, you know, when it's all unpinned, it's not flapping about in two pieces and looking real weird. So I'm sewing the top seam here. I wasn't worrying about making it a neat seam or anything, because it's ultimately going to be on an elastic strip, so you're not going to see that anyway. So here I'm just sewing around the shredded bits that I've drawn. I'm just cutting out the shredded bits. So I'm cutting as close to where I sewed it as possible. Yeah, I think I sewed slightly on the inside of the white, so I could cut the white lines off so you're not going to see them anymore. Pretty much this whole phase I repeated the exact same for the second skirt panel. And here, as you can see, I've just made an elastic waistband. I've just sewn it at the back. I'm just popping each skirt panel in, folding over the top, so it's not just a raw seam edge. And I'm bunching it up in places and pinning it, and then ultimately I'll just be hand sewing that on there. You could totally sew it on the machine, but I just really could not be bothered pulling it off. So yeah, I'm just hand sewing it. So the sleeves are done in a similar kind of way to these skirt panels, but here I'm not worrying about a lining. In the game and the promotional material, it didn't really look like there was much of a lining. So the outside skirt fabric that I used is what I'm using for the sleeves here. Here I'm just folding over the edge so it's hemmed at the top. And as you can see, I really didn't do my pattern very well, but I figured it didn't matter because again, I'll be cutting it off. I didn't bother sewing these edges because I just figured if they started to fray a little bit, it's going to add to the costume and look a little bit more accurate anyway. And I'm popping felt on the back just of that peaked bit of her sleeve. I wanted to make sure when it was on my arm, it stayed up and just had a little bit of structure to it. So I just sewed that straight on and then just cut the excess off. So you don't have to do that, but I just found with such a soft drapey material, it needed that little bit of structure to hold it all in shape and look how it should look. And here, just to hold up my arm, I've just made little elastic loops. I'm just hand sewing the two edges of the elastic together there, and then I just pin that into the top of the sleeve roughly where I think it should sit, and I just hand sew that on. I've sewn it onto 4 points, not all the way around, because I still want that elastic to be able to stretch. And if you stitch the whole entire thing, 1, you're going to have a big seam line on your sleeve, and 2, you're going to reduce the stretch of the elastic. Now this part for me was probably the most complicated piece. It took ages to figure out how to get it to sit. So it's in a few pieces. So as you can see, I've just pinned at the front along to the back as one bit, and I've made it a super long bit there so I can actually just fold in the bow type loops and just hand sew that all together in place. And this is just a little extra bit that she seems to have going across, so I just did a short bit and pin and hand sew it to the little bow bits. Now the back piece to me didn't really look like a bow as such, so I just got a fabric and tried to replicate the weird sort of V-type seam she seems to have on there as best as I could. I did make these two-sided, so this is a weird shiny fabric that I used for the lining. I sewed it with the right sides facing in, unfolded it, and just sewed the edge so it's the same fabric both sides. Now here is a super cheap top that I bought from Boohoo. I think it was only about $11. It's actually a bodysuit, but it's high neck, which I wanted. So I'm just pretty much cutting off the sleeves and a bit of the back to replicate the shape of Aqua's top. I did put that on me to draw roughly where it needed to go first. So here I'm just cutting out some of the black Ultra Cream from the Yaya Cosplay Fabrics range, because this is going to be my edging for the blue top. And as you can see, I've folded it and I'm pinning it on the inside initially, and then I will fold it over and then pin it on the outside, which you will see shortly. So I'm just folding under itself and pinning it just so it's a clean edge on the inside and the outside. Now with the top, when I put it on, I did have to put some darts just around the boob area because from cutting it, it did start to gape quite a bit. I think I got this bodysuit in about a size 8, Australian size 8. But yeah, just check the measurements, see what works for you, and just bear in mind that once you've sewn it all together and cut the bits off, you may just have to add in some darts after. So I used a zigzag stitch to attach the black Ultra Cream to the blue bodysuit top, purely because I just wanted to ensure that stretch stayed nice and stretchy, that it wasn't compromised with a straight stitch or anything like that. Boob Cups. Again, I'll see if I can link to what I bought for these. These are just sort of the bra boob cups you can buy from, I think, just craft fabric stores. Again, I got mine from Spotlight. It was about $15 or $16 for the pair. They're not 100% accurate, but they give a bit of structure and shape, and they're just super easy to pin on there and sew down. So the corset, what you can see here is actually made out of the stretch, the jumbo stretch fabric from the Yaya Cosplay fabric range. That's going to be my lining, but it was also a base, a template. I can make sure everything fits. It's a stretchy fabric. I'm transferring the pattern here onto the black ultra cream fabric, the same fabric I used for the edging of the blue top. And basically I sew all the pieces together. I'll pop a picture up in the box somewhere of the corset pattern I used. That was a Yaya one as well, I think. It was the Assassin's Creed one. I did it on the second smallest size, but I had to pretty much take out 2 entire panels because it was just way too big. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Definitely do a mock-up if you need to in the same level of stretch fabric you'll be using. So I'm just pinning these together, and basically I sewed the lining together, and then I sewed the ultra cream together, and then I put the lining and the ultra cream together and sewed them down. Now I did make the ultra cream bigger so I could fold it up and then have a nice clean hemmed edge, top and bottom. In case you're wondering why, you know, it's bigger. And I'm pinning it as I go along just so I don't get confused with all the pieces, because there's a lot of pieces to this corset pattern. It is crazy. So here, as you can see, I've sewn the outer ledge. By this point, you guys know what I mean. I've been really sick, which you would have seen from the outro. I'm still not 100% there, but yeah, I've sewn the ultra cream, I've sewn the lining to it, and maybe I haven't sewn it to it. I have no idea. There's a bucket ton of pins in there. I probably haven't sewn it yet. Here, this is just like a white ribbon, and I'm just pinning in the edges because when I sew down each seam line just to make them sit nice and flat, it will capture that in there as well. So you could probably measure this out if you wanted to. I eyeballed it. Made it a little bit gapey because you need to take in consideration if you're using a stretchy fabric like I am, you need it to still be able to stretch a little bit. And here I am sewing everything together. This took quite a bit of time actually. It was really quite deceiving. I was using a straight stitch just to go down these because it's an area that doesn't need to stretch. And I did find with all the seam lines, I somehow got blood on the ribbon, which I managed to get off. With all the seam lines, it actually held the corset really quite nice and structured. I was really worried it would bunch up and it didn't. But I did put a little bit of boning just into sections. So you may not see it, but I sewed like a channel, which is where just plastic boning went in. This is just sewing the back edge. So I use bra hooks to fasten the corset because I wanted it to not have a zip or anything. I didn't want it to look visible anywhere. Now onto the armor. So I just used foam that I had on hand. As you can see, I think my blade is really quite blunt. So obviously when cutting out foam, be super careful and just make sure your blade's nice and sharp, because you would do that in 1 or 2 sweeps, not the million that I'm doing right now. So I did a paper template again, and then just eyeballed it, adjusted it as I needed to by checking it against my own arms, because everybody has a different size arm. And yeah, I just winged it and cut all the pieces out. So here is a whole life of Dremel. I don't have anywhere to hang my Dremel, so as you can see in the video, it kind of runs away from me quite frequently. But this is just to round off the edges and then give that beveled look to the the armor pieces where it needs it. I apologize about the footage in all this video. I really wasn't on my A game with lining up my phone. I still don't have a camera and it's just all on a phone on like the tiniest little phone tripod thing that you've probably ever seen. It's legit probably about 15 to 20 centimeters tall, so it's really small, and I think I had it on a empty foam clay tub here. So yeah, I do apologize that the footage seems to just be kind of far away in a lot of this, but hopefully it still helps you guys. But yeah, as I said, I'm just dremeling it. I did Dremel a line down the back of the 3 base pieces of the armor so it could fold a little bit better. And here I'm just heating it up, I'm folding it, just getting it that shape that it needs. And for those wondering, I think the foam I'm using here is probably about 5 or 6 mil thick. And here I've primed all the pieces with a few coats of Flex Bond. And I tend to paint a lot of my base pieces black, unless I'm doing something a really random color, and especially white, but most of the time I paint my pieces black. And here I'm using a Lumiere, I think that's what it is, a Jacquard Lumiere paint, and just like a really dark silver. And I'm just doing light wash over that. I didn't want it to look too much of a white silver. So yeah, as you can see, my hands are an absolute mess right now because I got so much paint. I also love the Ink Gold range. So I'm using a brighter silver for the middle piece, and that's the Lumiere paint I was using. The great thing with the Ink Gold is you just use your fingers. Because I knew I was only doing one piece here, I was using it from the tub, but that stuff dries out really quite quick, so just make sure you scrape it, put it somewhere, the bit that you need, and use that so you can keep the actual paint in the tub nice and not drying out. So I'm using that same Lumiere dark silver on the top piece. And I'm doing a slightly lighter wash than I did on the 2 armor pieces, just so it's a little bit darker. And I've gone back to my Ink Gold, literally in gold, and I'm putting that on. And I actually didn't mind getting a bit of excess on that Dremeled edge because it gave it a bit of a glowy look. So here I'm gluing on elastic. I didn't want the armor pieces to just be one solid piece, so I actually glued each piece together with elastic, so it had a little bit of bend and flex in it still. Obviously I'm using contact cement here, so if you're using this, please make sure it's in a well ventilated area. If you have to use it inside like I do, have a fan going, have a proper respirator on, and have windows open. Don't let your pets too close to you or anything like that. I obviously do all of that, so definitely make sure you're following the correct safety measures using these. So with the circle armor piece, I did glue that directly onto the top armor piece because I figured that really didn't need much flex, and that was where the attachment was probably going to be to hold it onto my arm. So with the chest wrap, I was trying to still use a lot of things I had on hand. I didn't want to fork out a bucket ton of money to make this costume. So this is actually leftover fabric I had from my Nero costume from many years ago. I love the texture of it, and it's quite a soft fake leather. So clearly it's the wrong color, but we'll deal with that later, don't worry. So I pretty much just folded over both edges, and I'm just sewing with a straight stitch straight along each edge. And as you can see, I'm just painting it black, just with acrylic paint. It's nice and easy. I did paint both sides in case it, it folds or comes away from me a little bit when I'm wearing it, just so then you can still see black on both sides. You're not gonna see bright red and say, what the fudge is going on here? So it's just painted black with acrylic paint. You probably could set that with a waterproofing spray of some kind. I didn't, but I probably will in the future. And here is the chest emblem. So I just eyeballed the pattern. I've drawn it freehand. The thinner grey fabric, which is probably only about 2 or 3 mil thick, is purely as a base to glue the top pieces on. So I'm using a foam here that's probably about 10 mil thick, so about a centimeter, and I had a hard time carving it out. I know you'll see me doing it on my knee. I had a layer underneath, but please don't do this. Make sure you do this on a foam board. I was just being super lazy. For the record, I did not get meat. It did not go through the second layer of foam. That was a layer of foam that the cat had attacked anyway. Yeah, it was really hard to carve this out because it's a really weird shape. So the top and bottom pieces I've made separate, and they'll be glued onto that lighter grey base. So here we're back to dremeling, our good old friend dremeling. So I'm just dremeling the, I'm going to call this a star portion, just to give it a bit of shape, a bit of texture, and then I'll go and dremel the weird shaped top bit. Dremeling, make sure you use like a dust mask because Dremel dust gets everywhere. Now the boots armor. These are done a very similar way to the original armor, but here these boots are totally inaccurate. They're just what I had lying around. Her boots are obviously not quite that much of a heel, but I'm just using packing tape here, going around the boot shape, and then I'm just drawing the armor pattern on there freehand, just totally eyeballing it. And then I pretty much just cut the tape off, glue it on some packing paper or just any kind of paper, and then just cutting it out, and they are then my template pieces to transfer onto the foam. And here's all my templates. I'm using, I think again, foam that I reckon is probably about 6 mil thick, or maybe a bit more, maybe 6, 7 or 8, I'm not 100% sure. Somewhere around there, you'll be fine anyway, with whatever you choose. So the 2 pieces I've already drawn are for one boot. Yeah, so pretty much every template needs 2 pieces for each boot. So it's like 4 pieces for each section, I think. My brain is really not working today, I'm so sorry. And here I'm just carving it out with a blade. I did go back on the edges of the boot piece and I cut it with just a pair of scissors on like a beveled angle, just so it glued together and had that little bit of a point that hers seemed to have at the front and back. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you've got a bevel cutter, you could absolutely use that too, or you could cut it on an angle as you're cutting it out, but this was an afterthought that I had, which is why I'm just doing it this way. So here we're just gluing all the pieces together. I'm sort of shaping it a little bit with my hands as I go as well. It will get heat formed once it's all glued together. Just giving the edges like a rounded, slightly beveled look with the weird, I don't even know what to call it, weird hooky thing that she has coming out the sides of her boots. That's just all rounded off when I get to dremeling that, and the bit that we did the packing tape pattern with, that just gets dremeled on the top and smooth at the bottom. just painted the exact same way as the armour. They were primed with Flex Bond and just painted with Inca Gold and Jacquard paints. And here with the wig, I'm just colouring it in with alcoholic markers, so you can use Copic markers. These are just some really cheap ones I got off eBay. I did them in about 3 or 4 different shades of blue. I think the pack I got was about 20 bucks for 20 markers in all different shades. So yeah, do it layer by layer, just eyeball it, start with a darker colour, blend it out to a lighter colour, and yeah, up next I'll style the wig when I can get some got to be glued spray. Yeah, and this was a long wig which I cut, but yeah, I'm just making the roots darker. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's video of the cosplay tutorial time-lapse of Dark Aqua from Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm still yet to make the Keyblade. As I said in the intro, with being sick, still not 100% right now. I've been really lazy and I have put off doing it. So that will hopefully be coming soon-ish. I was going to 3D print, but then I thought, no, you guys deserve to see a way of making a Keyblade, you know, in a more budget-friendly option that is more accessible to a lot of people out there who do not have 3D printers or like me, still haven't plugged theirs in. That's gonna happen one day. We'll see. So yeah, as always, any questions, just let me know. Please feel free to like the video, subscribe if you want, tell your friends about it. And yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Bye.